Nearly 6 million riders take the subway each day. John Taggart for The New York Times. Good morning on this bright Tuesday. An investigation by The New York Times revealed how the city's crumbling subway system got to this crisis point through decades of those in power steering money away from the problems at hand. We have received nearly 1,000 responses to the story as of this morning, many of them from commuters expressing outrage. Some demanded that politicians put their differences aside to focus on what matters: repairs. Others questioned whether decision-makers even ride the subway. Some were stunned to learn how much MTA workers make. And others called on fellow strap-hangers to react and act. A sample of what readers in New York and elsewhere are saying: lawmakers need to work together. Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio should be forced to ride the subways together, preferably while handcuffed and holding hands, until the New York City subway system's on-time performance meets or surpasses the standards set by other American subway systems. William Real, 66, West Harlem. Quit bickering and work together to repair and replace hazardous conditions before something horrific occurs. Barbara Wooden, 76, Westchester, PA. All elected officials should be required to ride the subway or take the buses, especially those who have any input toward the budgets: the mayor, the governor, and the MTA board. Stop fighting over who's in charge and do something. Amy Sears, 54, Washington. Hey TSM, workers make how much? The MTA system is a disgrace. Meanwhile, we learned that MTA administrators are making $280,000 really, and average workers are pulling in $170,000, while millions are being diverted to everything but maintenance and upkeep, track and signal upgrades, safety, and cleanliness. It's almost criminal. John Keane, 52, Jersey City. Mr. Sam Olson rejected the idea that subway workers were overpaid, arguing that it is a dangerous job in which assault is common. As a primary care subspecialist physician, I am unlikely ever to earn this type of salary. Many people work hard in dangerous conditions: teachers, doctors, nurses, construction workers. Get over yourself, Mr. Samuelson. Dr. Kanani Tichin, 42, Manhattan. Commuters need to stand up. We transit riders, suckers, and New York taxpayers have been the unwitting out-of-town marks skinned by Times Square three-card Monty hustlers, sharks who have been suppressing their laughter while playing us over and over, never letting slip how this racket has worked. So help me, every New Yorker should read this and make those responsible pay in all future elections. Rick Fowad, 56, Upper West Side. It isn't a mere question of corruption. It is structural disinvestment in public commons, in this case, public transportation. It's thievery. Cancel all the debts, prosecute the entire group that removed our capital, and the country can rebuild decent lives. Brian Prager, 58, Astoria, Queens. Accountability. Our mayor shrugs and says, "It's not my job." The governor steals MTA money for other projects and then declares an emergency. The chairman of the MTA is worried that there are no phone chargers on the subway when the signals fail nearly every day. We deserve better. Vote the elected guys out of office and then get a new chairman. Steve Dominguez, 55, Bayside, Queens. Here's what else is happening: whether we're giving thanks a couple days early for this radiant weather. Sunny skies over the city today with a high of 59. If only it could be this lovely out on what's shaping up to be a much chillier Thanksgiving Day. In the news, in an interview with The Times, Joseph J. Lota, the MTA chairman, said New York's mass transportation system is not the world leader it once was, and that has to change. New York Times. Joseph J. Lota, the chairman of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Victor J. Blue for The New York Times. WeWork, the office space sharing company, is starting its own school called WeGrow. New York Times. A road meant to ease traffic will be named after Gov. Chris Christie of New Jersey. New York Times. A lawsuit claims the police on Long Island are cooperating with federal immigration officers in ways that break state law. New York Times. A woman who claimed the devil made her smother her son in 2015 was sentenced to 18 years in prison. New York Times. A memorial for Gabrielle Ortiz Fisher in Brooklyn in March 2015. The child was found unconscious on his mother's lap in a Manhattan restaurant. Kevin Hagan for The New York Times. Mayor Bill de Blasio is headed back to Iowa. New York Times. The New York Times has suspended Glenn Thrush, one of its most prominent reporters, after he was accused of inappropriate UAL behavior. New York Times. A federal monitor could be appointed to supervise the New York City Housing Authority, amid revelations that the city has for years failed to do lead paint inspections in thousands of public housing apartments. New York Times. 40 people were injured and one was reportedly missing after two explosions and a fire at an upstate factory that makes nail polish. New York Daily News: Brooklyn and Queens residents are divided over plans for a light rail system that would connect the two boroughs. WNYC Today's Metropolitan Diary: a fight on the bus. For a global look at what's happening, see your morning briefing. Coming up today, children can see The Three Bears Holiday Bash, a variety show with puppetry and dance, at the Swedish Cottage Marionette Theatre in Central Park. 10:30 and 11:30 a.m. $8 children, $12 adults. Chasing Consciousness, Rethinking the Mind, an evening of stories and provocative conversation about science and human awareness, at Caveat on the Lower East Side. 6 p.m. $15 legal scholars, historians and professors from Columbia University discuss war powers and the presidency, at the New York Historical Society on the Upper West Side. 6:30 p.m. $38 Nutcracker Rouge. Mark Shelby Perry looking ahead. See Nutcracker Rouge, a burlesque fairy tale and risque rendition of the classic, at Theater 14 in Bushwick, Brooklyn, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday or Sunday. Times and prices vary. Alternate side parking remains in effect until Thursday. For more events, see the New York Times' Arts Entertainment Guide. And finally, seat belts, everyone. Steven Speranza for the New York Times: as if our commutes weren't already enough of a mess, Thanksgiving travel mayhem is upon us. AAA is projecting that 51 million Americans will travel for the holiday, the most in more than a decade. In New York, the worst time to head out for Thanksgiving is not Wednesday, but rather today between 4 and 6 p.m., according to the traffic and navigation app Waze. The Automobile Association said delays in New York are expected to double around this time, and that the Long Island Expressway at routes 106 and 107 in Nassau County will become one of the most snarled areas in the country. Catching a flight? The biggest headache will be for those traveling to Kennedy International Airport between 5:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. today, the group said. Plan accordingly, and safe travels. New York Today is a morning roundup that is published weekdays at 6 a.m. If you don't get it in your inbox already, you can sign up to receive it by email here. For updates throughout the day, like us on Facebook. What would you like to see here to start your day? Post a comment, email us at nytoday@nytimes.com, or reach us via Twitter using nytoday. Follow the New York Today columnists, Alexandra Levine and Jonathan Wolfe, on Twitter. You can find the latest New York Today at nytoday.com.